This is Ubuntu 17.10 with the GNOME 3.26 desktop. I previously did a video comparing the way Ubuntu and Fedora implemented this particular desktop, and I'm leaving a link in the notes below the video in case you want to look at that. I'm not going to go over all those details again, but I'm going to discuss some other aspects. As I mentioned then, you have a choice between the Wayland Display Manager and the Xorg Display Manager, and I'm using Xorg because Simple Screen Recorder will not yet work in Wayland. Now, in my last video, I didn't install the tweak tool, but I mentioned that to get rid of all these icons on the desktop, I would have to, so I'm going to do that now. I'm going to press the super key and type tweak. And you see GNOME Tweaks, as it's now called, and it's available from Ubuntu software. So I'm going to click on this choice, and Ubuntu software opens to that page, and I'm going to install it. Enter my password. Authenticate. So now GNOME Tweaks is ready. So I'm going to press the super key again, type tweaks, and tweaks is available here. I'm going to put this on the dash, add to favorites. Then I'm also going to open it by clicking on it. Now if I look here under desktop, it says show icons, and that's on, and it shows the trash and the mounted volumes. I'm going to turn it off. They all go off, or you could pick each of these items separately. So now I have a clean desktop the way I like it. Press the super key again. Go back into the tweak tool. Let's see what else I can do here. I'm going to turn animations off. Now under desktop, I'm not going to do anything else right now. Extensions, here's something you'll notice. In extensions, normally with the tweak tool, you would have another option here. This shows what Ubuntu has already done with extensions. It's included the app indicators in the Ubuntu dock. However, there's no option for getting additional extensions as there usually is. If you clicked on that in the past, it would take you to the website for extensions. Now, there is a way of getting additional extensions, which I'll show you in a minute, but that way is not available. Let me go to top bar, and under clock, I'm going to show the date. There it is. Now, this application menu here refers to this thing which says tweaks. It does not refer to the application menu per se. When you turn it off, that little thing saying tweaks disappears. And when I turn it back on, tweaks reappears. By the way, I did restart and I never got an application menu. Now, as you can see, the maximize and minimize buttons are already enabled. I didn't need the tweak tool for that. but you can move them over to the left if you want. They're on the right by default, which is where I prefer them, but some people who are used to Unity or Mac OS might prefer them on the left and leave them on the right. Currently, Dynamic Workspaces is checked, and that means that every time you use up the existing workspaces, a new one appears. If you want static workspaces, you can specify the number, and it will remain the same at all times. And here's a way of handling additional displays. Now, going back to extensions, as I said, there's no way to get further extensions from the tweak tool. However, you can get them from the Ubuntu repository. Now, I had a little difficulty finding these in the Ubuntu software, so I installed Synaptic Package Manager. It did not come installed by default. Enter my password, authenticate. Now what you want to search for here is GNOME-shell-extension. And then click on search. Now you'll see a number of different extensions here. This one was already installed by default. I should make this wider so you can read. This is the app indicator. There's one for auto-hiding the top bar. There's one for getting better volume control. There's one for installing caffeine, which allows the computer to stay awake. I've already disabled all those annoying power-saving features, so I don't need caffeine. There's one of adding the dash to the panel. There's one for a regular dash to dock, which is different from the Ubuntu dash to dock. There's one for disconnecting Wi-Fi. I don't know why I would want to do that. There's one for showing the hard disk LED, hide activities. I don't know why I would want to do that either, but you can do it. Impatience speeds up the animation speed. I disabled animations. There's an extension to add a logout button. An extension to control media players. An extension to move the clock. And a number of other extensions. I won't go through all of these. I'm just going to show you what happens when I add this weather extension, mark for installation. And then apply. Apply. Changes are applied. There's no weather in here yet, so I'm going to restart again and see what happens. So now when I open the tweak tool, and go to extensions. There's the weather extension. Notice system program problem detected. This is a common Ubuntu annoyance. These things are constantly cropping up. They may be serious problems, but usually they're not. So the way to get rid of this is to get rid of the apport utility, A-P-P-O-R-T. But I'm not going to go into that now. I'm going to cancel this. Here's Open Weather. First I want to configure it by clicking on this gear. Location, Vaiaku Tuvalu default. It's an interesting default. I'm going to add a location. Chicago. Here it is. Save. Oh, I forgot to select the one I entered. All right. So that's just one example of how you get extensions. It's a little different than it used to be when you'd get them from the web page. Now I happen to have a wired connection here. You can click anywhere on here. It says wired connected. Here's my wireless router. Let's see what happens when I disconnect the wired connection. It seems that my wireless kicks in. So that's working. I'm going to connect the wired one again. It's more trustworthy. There's the symbol. Now I went into settings quite extensively in my last video, but I'm just going to briefly cover some of them here. Specifically the dock. The icon size can be changed. The position on the screen can be changed. I'm going to leave it at the left. And it can be auto hid if you wish. Turn that on, it's auto hid. The only thing is it isn't auto unhide. I have to make this window smaller to unhide it. So I'm going to leave the auto hide off. It doesn't work very well. Let's see what would happen if I turned it on, maximize the window, and then clicked on activities. That's the only way of doing it. So you can essentially go back to the old dash if you want to, in some ways. Anyway, I'm going to turn the auto hide off again. I already turned off all the power saving features. Otherwise, this is much the same as I discussed in my last video. So let's take a quick look at what's included. Right, you have the activity log, you have this game Isle Riot, you have the Amazon store. This is one I'd like to get rid of. Remove from favorites, good riddance. You have the calculator, the calendar, cheese for taking your picture with the built-in camera, files, Firefox, input method, language selector. You have LibreOffice, but again, the names are truncated, so if you don't understand these symbols, you won't know which one you're getting into. If you right-click on them, and then you can click on Show Details, it opens up the software manager again. I don't want to do that. Be nice if you could see the full name, but you can't. This is Calc, this is Draw, this is Presentation, this is the math symbols, this is the writer. Anyway, now here's the logout button, Mahjong game, Minds game, Photo Lens. Not sure what this is. Failed to launch. I'm just going to eliminate that. Power statistics, reboot. These are already available. I don't know why they're here. Remina. I'm not going to go into that right now. Rhythm box. Settings, which I went through before. Shotwell, which is a photo arranger and accumulator. So shut down again. Simple scan. I haven't tried using it yet. It's slightly different than it was in workflow, but I haven't really gotten to that yet. Simple screen recorder I installed. Software and updates. Software updater. Startup applications. Startup disk. That's for making a new startup disk based on your existing system. Sudoku, puzzle, Synaptic Package Manager I installed, terminal was installed, text editor, Thunderbird, transmission, Ubuntu software we looked at, utilities, you have the archive manager, backups, character map, disk usage, disks and GNOME disks, very useful. Document viewer, fonts, help, image viewer, logs, passwords, screenshot, system monitor. Remember, I'm running simple screen recorder. And I'm using 38% of my memory, 1.4 gigabytes. And about 50% of my CPU capacity on the average. And of course you have tweaks here. And then you have the video player. So I'm going to see if GNOME software has VLC. Here's this little magnifying glass over here. VLC. It's looking. Doesn't seem to be finding though. Oh, there it was. It sort of disappeared on me. Let's see if I can find it again. VLC. There it is. Now there's two of them. I don't know what the difference is. The difference is that no screenshot is provided for this one. Anyway, I'm not going to install it now. I don't know what this is. Ramina. I didn't mean to leave it open. So I'll right-click on that and quit. So just to open up a few things and add them to the dock, let's see what happens. Let's right-click on this, add to favorites, right-click on this, add to favorites. Do the same with this one, add to favorites. Power statistics. Add to favorites. Let me try some of these other. Shotwell, add to favorites. Simple scan, add to favorites. As you can see, the dashboard is beginning to disappear down here. And you could sort of hover over the bottom here and eventually get all these things, but it doesn't act very quickly. It's kind of a slow process. So this is a case where if you add more items, you may want to make the dash smaller. So I'm going to click on the super key, go to settings, go to the dock and reduce the size of the icons. Now everything shows. I could make them smaller yet if I had to. Now let me open a few things here. We open files and LibreOffice Draw. I'm going to minimize LibreOffice Draw. So when I click on the super key or activities, I get an overview of the open applications in the current workspace, but only in the current workspace. If I want to see the other workspace here, I have to click on this. Now, on this view of the workspaces only shows the unminimized applications. So if I click this, drag this down to this workspace, it doesn't show anything in the first workspace, but since there's a third workspace, I must have something in that workspace. And when I go to this, it does show the minimized applications. So this works just like GNOME 3 has always worked with regard to workspaces and changing tasks. Here I want to unminimize my simple screen recorder, and there it is. So I'm going to save this recording. This was a closer look at Ubuntu 17.10 with the GNOME 3.26 desktop. This is XRAM Tech. Thanks for watching.